Ladies and gentlemen, bring him to the stage. Warm welcome, Brian Otten.
Testing. Hello. Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. I know you have a lot of choices to make, so I really appreciate you choosing this session. And we're gonna talk a little bit about customer experiences. So in our API world, it's useful to kind of take a step back from the technical stuff and the deep technical detail and think about what is it that we're actually supporting in many cases with our APIs. And that's great customer experiences. Right? So a little bit about myself. I'm a member of the Axway Catalyst team. We have a booth over there, Axway, right near the front door. The Catalyst is the most fun team I think I've ever been in. We are everywhere, and we're helping our customers through kind of an added value over and above what we do as a technology vendor. Our main deliverable really is the relationship with the customer, and we really help them as a trusted advisor. A lot of the people we talk to, a lot of the companies we talk to, and maybe you're in this position, are having trouble kind of getting started with APIs, or if they've started, they want to kind of go back and say, well, what is it that we're really trying to achieve here? How do we actually align ourselves to be successful with APIs? So in short, we're really all about helping people make good decisions. Okay, let's talk a little bit about experience. It's useful to think about, how did we get here in 2019? How do we think about our customers and the way they interact with our organization? And if you think back to sort of like 15 to 20 years ago, when I was kind of 5 years into my career, that's really when the digital revolution really started in its like 1.0 version, right? And I think a lot of the companies I talked to back then were talking about the different opportunities that the internet gave for opening up new channels, new ways for customers to interact with our business. And so a lot of the organizations I talked to at the time were always talking about their omni-channel experience. So we now have the opportunity to reach customers through the web, through other channels, and omni-channel is really all about kind of unifying that, but providing multiple ways for us to interact. It kind of came out of the multi-channel, and then omni-channel was kind of really trying to unify that from a process perspective. But it was still really about taking our business processes, like the way we do things, and having customers come to us, right? We're going to optimize that, we're going to make it better, but it's still really only about customers coming to us, right? Now, fast forward to 2019, we have a whole bunch of potential customers who are digital natives, right? And so the old way of thinking in omni-channel isn't really going to be good enough. That's not going to be a good enough experience for people who are native digital people, right? So we're really thinking about flipping that on its head. So flipping the omni-channel mindset and thinking about something we might call omni-experience, right? It's really about how do we provide a way to get our value as an organization out to the customer, right? Rather than trying to figure out, and optimize the way that they come to us through different channels. Omni-experience is a term that our SVP, David Bressler, likes to think he coined. I don't know, maybe you guys have heard of it beforehand. But what omni-experience is really all about can be kind of summarized, and I'll use an example from financial services that probably all of you have been through. I went through it this year because I moved back, as we were joking at the beginning, I moved back to America after 26 years in England, and when I moved back, I went through the process of buying a house when I moved back here. So many of you have done that. So if I were to ask you the question, and frame this experience in this way, would you like to be in debt? No, right? No, nobody would answer that question in any other way. Would you like to be in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt? Nope. Okay, I expected the same answer, right? But when you're buying a mortgage, that's pretty much what you're doing, right? You're just saying, yes, I want to be in debt, I have to do this to buy my house, right? Now, if I frame this another way, because it's something else, and if I say, how would you like to own a home? Yes? Yeah. How would you like to own a home and make wonderful memories with your family there for years to come? Right? Yeah. That's a great experience, right? So that's a yes, right? The first answer was a no. Now you've got a yes. Two different answers. Omni Experience is about embracing your customer's yes, right? It's that experience. It's the one where I'm buying a house, but I'm doing it. The experience I want is this happy, joyous experience. It's fun. I'm looking for a house. The house search and everything is a different experience. So it's about embracing your customers' yes. Okay, and that's really the way that you need to think about interacting with customers in 2019, right? The second answer, the yes, is I'm thinking about you as a human. I'm thinking about you in the stage of life or the moment that you're in, right? The feelings that you're going to have. And finally, I'm thinking about what do you need to achieve? What's the value that I'm bringing to you, right? So rather than, me having to step out of I'm happily looking for a house and having that experience, and then having to go and deal with the mortgage lender and, constantly be worrying about the two things. Wouldn't it be cool if I had an experience where that was all part of the same experience? It was an omni experience. That's part of what I'm doing, and it's made easier for me. If someone could bring the mortgage part to the house search and the happy fun part, that would be fantastic, right? So that's a good way to think about omni experience. I'm thinking about also the word multi-experience. So a lot of people, I just want to word of caution, multi-experience is not the same as omni-experience. With omni-experience, you're really thinking about how do you take your value and get it to the engagement point for the customer, right? Rather than the other way around. Okay, so you'll hear some people will talk about it multi-experience. We're talking about the omni-experience where everything comes to you. There's another example about multi-experience that I'll leave you with. So my spiritual advisor, chief catalyst, Brian Pagano, he went to talk to a top 5 retailer, and they said, yeah, we're going to provide multi-experience. We've got our web app, we've got our web portal, we've got this new app, right? This is going to be great. We're really excited about it. We've got all the features. We got store locator. We got promotions on there and everything. And this is really a new channel for us. It's a new way for customers to experience purchasing from us. And he's like, I'm not going to download that. And they were like, totally took the wind out of their sails. And they said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, are you telling me that every retailer that I want to interact with, I have to download their app? So if I want to interact with 15, 20 retailers, I'm going to have like 15, 20 buttons on my phone to press, right? I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to go and click every time. You need to figure out a way to get your experience to me, to where I'm going to be. Okay, so everybody, have you got omni-channel goggles on now? Is it, you guys? Yeah. Okay. So with this omni-channel mindset, right? It kind of leads you to a few realizations, right? One of them is about experience and what does it really truly mean to have a digital experience? Is it that you're just taking your internal processes and you're putting them online? Is that digital? Or is it something else? An example I had was early in my career, I was working for a company in London, and we were providing geodemographic reports for marketing people. So people who were doing, let's say, integrated marketing campaigns or location assessment for their location. They were thinking about how do they we would supply a report for them. So they'd say, well, I'm interested in a location, and then you guys supply the report. And the way they did that was a phone call or an email. And we said, okay, well, there's this new thing that's come out. It's the internet. We've got a website. Let's put that process online. And it was just a web form, right? So we're saying, well, is that digital? Is that just taking your manual, what you used to do and put it online? Is that a digital experience? Or is it, just, regurgitating your processes, right? What would have been better is if we had a way to integrate that with their location service or their marketing campaign experience, right? Okay, so the other realization with your omni-channel goggles on is you can now start to think about, if you're thinking about APIs and you think about individual APIs and you're still kind of focused on, I've built my API, that's my channel, right? With the Omni experience, you're thinking about how you can bundle and unbundle customer experiences, right? So if you take digital banking, for example, there are a lot of banks that we're speaking to at the moment who are thinking about, well, maybe we can bundle up even non-banking products in our as part of our offering, right? And it turns out that APIs are really, really good at taking these bundles. And it's really an omni-experience way of doing it, because if you're giving people a dynamic way of being able to pick and choose and form what kind of choices they're going to make, they're getting better value. When you think about the Happy Meal from McDonald's, and that was the classic, you can buy the individual things, but we're giving you a discount, we're giving you a toy. So we're bundling up that experience. And it turns out that APIs are actually really, really good at doing that. Okay, so here's another experience. We moved back to Nebraska, and my wife started doing healthcare brokerage, right? And she immediately started working for, now she doesn't have to go through one particular healthcare company. She can make a choice, right? She can choose to go to anyone. But when she first started, she was thinking, well, this is a real pain. Like I'm going out to these like remote locations in Nebraska, and I'm having to sign people up. So what she does is she signs people up on health plans, but she needs a whole bunch of information in order to do that. And she needs to submit a bunch of information in order to do that, right? So her experience was pretty awful when she started. A couple of months later, one of the healthcare providers came out with something called Lean, right? So thinking about what I was saying about Omni experience, this is being pushed to her. She's able to be in a place that's sometimes remote, but they've actually captured and they've understood what she's trying to do, what her pains were, and how to actually visualize that and give her the experience that she needs. So whether she wants to, confirm an applicant, or confirm the scope of an appointment, or confirm that they're actually eligible, she gets a bunch of capabilities to do that makes her experience loads better. And what does that mean? That means increased value for her. It means she's not losing applicants because she couldn't get the submissions in. It means that she's able to check whether they're on Medicaid or Medicare, and she's got all the information she needs. Now I see something like this, and I see APIs. Like thinking about bundling APIs and thinking about how APIs work together, I look at each one of these things almost as a product in itself. And I start thinking about the APIs that are used to deliver this, right? So with a provider search, you might think there's going to be an API for that. There's a provider API, and it might be working together with a location API or a benefit API behind the scenes. And I start to see all of the API methods that would form this experience. And I got a little excited about that, and I was telling her about it. And she's like, oh, okay, I finally understand what you do now, right? And I was like, yeah, and you can orchestrate them, and you can do that. She's like, all right, shut up now. That's all I need to know. Okay, so who's going to deliver this And if you're using APIs to deliver the omni-channel experience, how are you going to do this in your organization? This is one of the things that the Activate Catalysts are doing now, is helping understand not only what needs to be done, but how you're going to be aligned internally within your organization to do it. One of the things about this is understanding, in the examples I gave, understanding what value is and how an API is actually going to contribute to that value. What are the pains that an API is going to solve, right? What are the gains that an API is going to deliver, right? And how are you going to get the people who are the consumers of the API together with you as a provider of an API and start to work out from the outset what the value is, right? We get asked all the time by people who are operational, they're in the infrastructure teams, and they're saying, hey, the business people are coming to us and asking us about what are the business metrics for our KPIs. Well, they have no idea. They're only looking at transactional, operational metrics. There's no way for them to understand what the true business value of an API is. If you do that up front, it takes a special kind of person to understand how to align people to do that. Now, I think about API product managers as almost like where data science was probably like 8 years ago or so, right? And you know, you hear from companies like Airbnb that says, well, you know, our 5th employee was a data scientist, right? Because we knew we had to understand up front what the business value was of what we're providing. And I think it's the same with API product managers. And it's, you know, don't just take it from me. Gartner is saying, you know, listen to your developers, but look out for the innovation opportunities, right? This is what API product managers are good at. API product managers are, as my buddy Kai Lumich, the fellow Catalyst, says, is they're like a crazy breed of business tech cowboys. They're people who can navigate the organization, understand how APIs can deliver value, understand how that can be communicated back to management. And you really need these people. Gartner says that probably about 42% of top performing companies are starting to recruit API product managers at the moment. I actually met an API product manager here today. Are there any API product managers in the audience? Okay, excellent. That's great. So I think you people are going to be the ones who are kind of spearheading how you actually marry up your API strategy to your kind of omni experience and building out the right experiences. And finally, if you're really thinking about delivering great customer experiences, you've got to think about design. So we talk a lot about full API lifecycle management. We went around today in the conference and talked to people about what full API management lifecycle means, and we didn't really get a great response. There were some people who were familiar, and there were some people who were doing it and they didn't even realize they were doing it. So with a bit of structure and a bit of understanding about how to take an API through from planning and design into build and publishing that API and managing it as a product in its own right, I think you start to understand that no product manager would go to market with a product without thinking about the design, right? And when we talk about API design first, it really brings that home. I know a lot of people think about, well, we need to do API design first. Why do we have to do that, right? Well, it's because you need to not only see how your API is going to work in terms of the interaction with the back-end systems and whatnot. You're thinking about, just like that United Healthcare thing, how are they working together? How are they going to provide value? How are they going to be used together? And are they going to be usable by developers to deliver that experience? So I often think that API design is left out. It's really near and dear to my heart. So you can come to talk to us about that and our partners at Stoplight as well. It's a great way for teams to collaborate, and it's a great way to make sure that you're delivering the experiences that you need. Okay, so I think this omni experience mindset is helping us think about APIs in a different way. A lot of people are still kind of stuck in the world where it's like, well, APIs are just integration, right? It's like the next wave of what we're going to do for integration. I can connect my systems. But remember, you're connecting not just technology systems, you're connecting human systems, right? Again, you're thinking about the journey that your customer is going to go on. How are you going to connect that? You're going to do that through APIs, and that's not just about integration, right? It's not just about putting the plumbing in place. It's about how do I conduct all of this together and make it meaningful and deliver value in new ways for new experiences for customers, right? So that's it. Let's make it happen. Now you have the new goggles. You can go out, you can talk to people in your organization about APIs in this way. It gives new meaning. It gives you a way to actually sell the value of APIs internally, and you can start to understand truly how that's contributing to your customers' happiness and your business success. Thank you.